Good morning. Do you know that about a month ago, a sheep tag sold for $1.3 million? I'm not letting that hold me back. I'm in the bootheel of New Mexico. So Mexico is about, 10, 15 miles that way. And then south of me, it's about 30 miles to Mexico. So I'm as close to Mexico as you can really get. And these are the little Hatchet Mountains. And they have bighorn sheep here. Desert bighorn sheep. So I'm looking for them. If you want to hunt bighorn sheep in New Mexico, there's a couple different ways you can get a tag. The most common is it's just a lottery, put in just like deer and elk and everything else in New Mexico. And there are 53 tags, and that's for both deserts and Rocky Mountains. The problem with that is there aren't very many tags, and for each hunt, so a lot of them, like where I'm at right now, I think there's only one tag. And so there's like 12,000 people putting in for most of them. So your odds of drawing are pretty slim. The other options you have is there are 2 governor's tags that are auction tags, and then there's 2 that are lottery tags. So that's 2 for each Rocky Mountains and deserts. And you can just straight up, if you don't want any luck, you could just buy one. It's auction. And most of the time, most years, you can get one between 200,000 and 400,000 ish. But for the Rocky Mountain this year, they beat the record and they sold one for 1.3 million. And so if you want to skip all of the lottery and luck and raffles and everything like that, you just pay a bunch of money and you can go bighorn sheep hunting. If you're not a hunter, you probably can't figure out why somebody would pay that much money or care that much to try to kill one. And just like everything else, it comes down to supply and demand. So I don't think people really care about hunting sheep more than other species, but there's just not very many of them, especially deserts. So I'm not really sure exactly how big this mountain range is, but it's probably 5 miles long and, I don't know, a couple miles wide. There are only, with the last survey that they did, there's only between 45 and 65 of those sheep in here. So it's not like they're in every draw around every corner. You really have to look for them. And there's a lot of places to look. Geronimo surrendered over here in those mountains in the distance. I don't even know if you can see them. But they would use the little hatchets and the big hatchets, which are over there, as hiding places from the cavalry. And they ended up, actually part of his band, they were over here when he surrendered, and the cavalry had to come get him. I'm not sure exactly where they were, and they didn't stay here all the time. This was just one of their hiding spots. I'm up here watching this ewe over here, and if you look down here, there's a water catch. So all of those are bought with sheep tags, pretty much. So Game and Fish, they put these all over the place, and a resident bighorn sheep tag cost 160 bucks. So 53 times 160 isn't very much, and so that's why the auction tags play such a big role, because just one tag will pay for way more conservation than all of the other tags combined. So there's some debate on if it's ethical or part of the North American model of conservation, but we wouldn't have this kind of stuff. We wouldn't have ewes in that saddle over there if it wasn't for things like auction tags. So even though it's way out of my price range, I'll never buy one. It's still a pretty important role in it. The other side of raising funds for conservation is the state agency, whatever they can raise, it's matched by Pittman-Robertson funding. So even though, let's say they raise $1 million for, sheep conservation, the federal government will match that or actually do more. But if they don't raise the money, then they don't get that matched money as well. So even though I know it's like, sounds really bad to say how much those sheep tags go for, but in reality, the state agency couldn't do it without them. It's pretty basic how these work, but I would not want to pack this stuff up here. I'm sure they used a helicopter, but still. It's just beehives. Looks like a good place for a snake to hang out. I like how they camouflage it. Cell service is pretty spotty here, but I just got a phone call from my boss, or a message that said, "Call me ASAP." So I called. She asked if I was there today, and no, I am not. And it's kind of hard to explain to somebody that you're on a desert mountain looking for bighorn sheep when you don't even have a tag or anything. But it's my life, I guess. They started in the saddle right here. They worked their way around, and now they're about 550 yards. It's a ewe and a lamb. Yesterday I was on those mountains. There's a lot more. Where the light stuff is, that's more where my truck is. It's right there. I have a ways to go and it's getting dark. Now that you figured out I'm not going to poach a bighorn sheep, we all know those people, those hunters that say, I just like going hunting, I don't really care about the killing part. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. But most people wouldn't drive this far, hike up this mountain, go down these chutes without planning on killing anything. I think there's only a few people that are crazy enough to do that kind of thing. Like wildlife photographers, I have huge respect for them because all they're getting is a picture. Dry ground lion hunters, just your average one. They go years without even catching a lion, but they love it and so they keep going. So I have a ton of respect for those guys. But that's pretty much what I'm doing, is just looking for bighorn sheep, having the whole experience without ever pulling a trigger. So there's no chance for success. I guess finding them, but it's all about the experience. I haven't spent too much time over there yet. A little bit this morning. There's not a lot of sheep in here though. Way less than you would think. It's really not too hard to get around up here. There's a couple tricky parts, but for the most part it's pretty straightforward. Earlier I was on top of that and I walked all the way down. The truck was parked way over in the saddle over here. And there's a tank behind me and I figured this would be a good spot for Javelina. So that's a secondary or probably primary reason why I'm here. And I glassed up 7 deer over here, which I saw them this morning. But then I was looking right back where I was. There's a band of sheep up there, like 200 yards from where I was. So there's that. Those water tanks are right in the saddle over here. So just below it, there's one. I can't see how big he is. And then there's 5 young rams just down on that ridge. They're not as big as the ones from yesterday though. But it's pretty cool, pretty cool. It looks like there's a couple of ewes in there with them, with some rams, but they shouldn't be together at this point. So I think that they're just immature billies. Or not billies, rams. There's one up higher, like just right below where I was sitting. And I don't know what that is. His head's in a cactus, so I can't tell. But one of them's decent size. This one just popped out a lot lower. And he's by far the biggest in the bunch. But his horns, they're tight, kind of like a Rocky Mountain horns are. But I bet that he gets killed this year. He's by far the biggest one that I've seen so far. Unless there's another monster hiding somewhere. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets killed. There are 8 or 9 of them up there. It's starting to kind of get dark. I'm supposed to be trying to find Javelina. So I figure I'm going to head back towards the truck. Hopefully I don't bump all those deer that are right here. If you're wondering about the legality of what I'm doing, So you're just not allowed to harass, push, or I think that's how it's worded in the proclamation. Or harass, push, or pursue any animal that you're not hunting. So me staying 1,000 yards away watching them is not harassing them in any way. That's why I'm not getting closer. So I'm staying far enough away where I'm not bumping them, which I would get better video if I got close. Also, in a lot of places like state land, you have to have a valid hunting license, which this is BLM, but if I was on state land, I have a valid Javelina tag and a, fur bearer tag and a lion tag and stuff like that. So there's no reason why legally I can't be here observing. After spending a day in the little hatchets and most of a day, although there's a dust storm, I couldn't really see. The big hatchets, I think it'd be pretty good to get a Desert Bighorn Sheep tag. There's only between 45 and 65 sheep over here, so there's not a lot. There's between 85 and 115 of them over there. So it's a big area to cover. So it's not going to be an easy hunt, but success rate is going to be really high. Definitely doable. I highly recommend that you guys just come check it out. Something about these desert mountains that they're just interesting. Well, thanks for watching. Let me explain what just happened. So I came down to one of these draws just off the mountain here, and because it looked kind of javelina-ish, so I had my bow and I actually spotted one, but a few hundred yards away, and it's really thick. So I went in there after him to get him, and I couldn't find him. So after I couldn't find him, I started blowing on the Javelina call to see if I could get him turned or show up or something. And some coyotes started barking and howling probably a half mile away. And so I was thinking, I never call in coyotes that are barking at you, but you have to give it a shot, right? So I was close enough to the truck. I was only a couple hundred yards from the truck. So I went back, switched, got a predator call and a gun, came back for the coyotes where they were, and then I stumbled on some Javelina, and so I had to decide, should I go back, get my bow, or just finish it then? Because it's a rifle tag is what I have, which I recommend that's the one you get because you get 2 months to hunt them. And they were doing the typical running around, everything. I was squealing on a call, and it was confusing them. So I ended up shooting one with a rifle, which it is a rifle tag. I just rather hunt them with a bow. But now I have a Javelina to deal with. Great.